Yeah, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are on this wonderful planet of ours. And during the new dream tonight here in Queensland, which is just gone past 7 o'clock, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, ACT and Tasmania, 9 o'clock to our friends in New Zealand, and 10 o'clock in the morning for our UK listeners. I'm Jeffrey Shaw, and I'm here, and just above me is my co-host Julia, and well above us again is another lady who she mentioned to me during the week that I actually met her in 2014. So it's a world of interesting compromises. You don't know who you're going to talk to, so make sure you always leave on good terms. So it's Debbie Irvine, but at this moment in time, I'm going to pass you over to Julia. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on Dreaming the New Dream. Tonight we have Debbie Irvine, who is going to talk about the healing power of dreams. Sometimes we have one set of dreams when we're young and we try and follow that and our dreams get broken. Debbie, our guest today, is going to talk about death to rebirth as the wounded healer, classical dream shaman journey. We're very excited to have you on, Debbie. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely to be with you again, Julia and Jeffrey.
Thank you. So, Debbie, you recently spoke at the an international conference on dreams about this journey of becoming the wounded healer in order to heal other people. You have yourself a postgraduate in sociology, you're a practicing counselor and shamanic drum teacher. Before that, you taught music and strings in schools in New Zealand and Australia, and then you basically had your dreams broken by a debilitating disease that kept you in the cave of your bedroom. Can you tell us more about the breaking of your dreams?
Sure, thank you. So I managed to rewrite my story, and especially the second part of my life, under the structure of the hero's journey, which is more than a structure. I mean, it's a living myth that if we can embody, we can change our life, and we're rewriting our dreams. So the hero's journey starts off in the ordinary world where we're living an ordinary life, and I was 48 years old and everything seemed to be going really well. I was a successful string violin teacher in schools and conductor, married 3 sons who were doing very well artistically and academically, and I thought I was very fit, and I thought I had my life in perfect balance. Yes, I'd always honored my dreams, but then I was given a dream, a precognitive dream that I couldn't really believe, because, my husband in the dream wasn't able to speak to me. He was very angry. He was lying on his back and he was shaking with rage. And I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? And he's saying, I've lost my job. And so, like, it was the anger that was shared between us subconsciously, but consciously through my dream, that I tucked away. And a week after that dream, I just started my New Year teaching at school and I got sick. And I thought it was just a temporary, illness and muscle spasms. And suddenly I was in 6 months of illness. And that kept going. I tried to go back to work halfway through the year. And as the second stage of the journey is the refuse of the call, you just don't believe that anything big is happening to you. And so by the end of the year, I was really sick. And the beginning of the next year, I was contemplating, and I had to take permanent sick leave under insurance. And so really that began the beginning of my midlife crisis, I guess. And 7 years that I spent in my bedroom as I lost the capacity to walk and to read and to write, and different illnesses developed. I was made totally and permanently disabled in 2008, and so I was ill health retired. And
that must be so scary. It must be so terrifying when you don't know what's happening to you and you just can't do what you used to do, and you just, I don't know, I guess you've become dependent.
well, yes, in some ways 7 years is an easy thing to say, and 7 years is a common number that, you know, you spend in the desert, that, you know, things happen to you that are really life-changing. All I really could do was sleep. And so I was made totally permanently disabled with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia at 2008. And yeah, I slept 18, 20 hours a day. And yeah, my capacities to do anything just diminished, except for using my intuition rather than my dreams, because my dreams also dried up during this period. And I used my intuition to help my sons with their artistic pursuits. And so that gave me, I guess that was the one protective factor in the lifeline, that while everything else dried up, I had, you know, some life and energy in my household that was creative.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And this actually reminds me of when I was in Vietnam. I went up to the northern hill tribes, and the woman who was guiding me actually came from a shamanic family. And she said her dad had basically also had fallen ill, and but that was normal, that the ancestors basically test the person through the illness, and if they die, they die. They don't become a shaman. If they live, then that means the ancestors have blessed them with the healing powers. So Debbie, you're alive here, so that's a good sign.
Well, I mean, yes. So I got sick, and this was 2005, which is now 15 years ago. And so from 2005 to 2012 was the 7 years in the bedroom, in the cave, the dark night of the soul, and in the hero's journey, the ordeals and death. And I didn't know that I was going through a shamanic death, because you don't. You have no idea that you're going to come out the other end. And so understanding the initiations that one goes through, which of course one doesn't know that they're an initiation unless you're in an indigenous you know, culture that actually gives you set initiations. In the Western world, we have lost touch with this, and you know, that's why Joseph Campbell's work is just so powerful. And my story obviously makes sense in hindsight. So I really want to, you know, emphasize that it was 15 years, and it's still, you know, it's another cycle and another cycle. But the deaths that happened to me that were extreme all happened at once. I mean, progressively with my health, and that after 2008, when I was made totally and permanently disabled, a year later, my health got worse. And I changed doctors and was re-diagnosed with common variable immune deficiency, which is a rare primary immune disease where genetically the body stops making antibodies, and the body doesn't have enough immunoglobulins to fight illnesses, so you know, bacterial infections, anything. And it means that you don't recover. Like, there's a 1% chance of recovery because it's a permanent genetic illness. And so when I was diagnosed, this is the death part, I was almost literally dead. My immunologist saw me on an emergency appointment and at hospital, and I had almost no immunoglobulins across any of the IgA, IgM, IgG is the main one. And so he just said, wow, this is serious. And for a doctor to say that, it must be serious. So I was put on monthly hospital treatment of intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, IVIG, and that was to be every month. Initially, I had 2 a month to try and boost my levels. And that is for the rest of your life, so that you're supplemented your body that can't make these immunoglobulins. But unfortunately, my body reacted to them really badly, and I lost the capacity to speak or move during the infusions, and I had to use wheelchairs, and I was using wheelchairs because I couldn't walk. So this was then 2010, and halfway through that year, I'm used as a teaching patient, and doctors are doing their fellowship exams on me, and they're asking me, life questions, not just medical questions. And it was discovered that my marriage was, how should I say, not good. And I was told to go and seek help to understand what was happening. And within a month, I had to separate. And interestingly, the month after that, the levels in my body for my immunoglobulins finally started to go up. So I'd had 6 months and nothing happened. So that was a pretty serious death of my marriage, which took a year in divorce, and other associations, always, betrayals by family of origin, sisters, friends, and all that. So yeah, the dark night of the soul involved a lot of things, and learning. Also, I was put in rehabilitation, weekly hospital rehabilitation, to learn to walk again from 2010 to 2011, to regain my proprioception and to try and read again. So that's...
So Debbie, can you just get up, please, and walk around for us, just to show that you prove that you beat that 99% odds. There you go. Look at that. Great.
Yes.
You got out of a toxic relationship. That's amazing. That's well done, you.
Yes.
So perhaps what we can do is that you've got the presentation. So we've set the background for the audience. We've got Debbie Irvine, and she's going to talk to us about the healing power of dreams, framed in the Carl Jungian story of the heroine's adventure, complete with beautiful drawings. It was made by one of your family members, I believe. So
my son.
Start off with the the proper invocation start.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. All right, so having trained as a dream teacher, I would like to invoke for all of us that may our doors and gates and paths be open, and may the doors and gates and paths between the worlds, and may the doors and gates and paths of any who wish to do us or those we love any harm be closed. May it be so.
Hey, I see on this presentation here, you got a guy called Joseph Campbell, and I have to say, he used to be on ABC's Compass show about 11 o'clock or something on a Sunday night, and I found him to be the most interesting character that I've ever come across, who really delved into the psyche of man. And when I found out that he was good mates of George Lucas, and they used to sit down there at Skywalker Ranch, and it's through that the whole series of Star Wars came into perspective, because Joseph showed the psyche of the dark and the light, and that was actually used by George in the sense of traveling through space, and then either coming into a beautiful planet that was either green or blue, or you go into a more of a darker side planet to give that psyche. I mean, he's an interesting character. I think he is probably the leader in all this type of work from the Western side of life.
Yes, absolutely. And Joseph Campbell also noted that we must create new myths, because although we can learn from the ancient myths, and it's wonderful as he discovered all the myths of the indigenous cultures around the world, and that they all have the same stages that are in my presentation, and and before the internet, so they weren't cheating by copying the stages, and that we all go through them, and we go through them, sometimes almost daily when something goes wrong, weekly, monthly, yearly, and our lives. And so, in the title of your show, Dreaming the New Dream, it's dreaming a new mythos for our time, which is both individually as our contribution to the world and collectively for each other and for our planet.
I think the one that's really most powerful of all of that would be Hercules and his 12 tasks that were set by Hera.
Or Persephone having to sift the grain. I'm going for the feminine angle there, Jeff. You know,
we
so
balance each other perfectly. We generally have to counterpoint each other.
No, I had a mother Demeter who went on strike, so you know, hello. The Beach Boy had to come and a compromise between, but he, you know, studied Demeter and his brother Hades, but taken off personified. But anyway, there you go.
Okay.
The three brothers had a wandering way. No?
I can't wait to find out what the first stages of the hero's journey, Debbie.
Okay, so, well, I've actually spilled the beans, really, that I've taken you through the first few stages. So do you want to flick through the slides? So the next slide.
Have a look at the pictures, and I might describe them for the regular listeners.
Go on. Off you go.
Julia, you're describing?
You've got the button. Jeff, if you move to the next page, please. Slide the next one, please. All right, so we've got the healing power of dreams. We've got a picture of a cat sitting on a window frame looking out.
Yep, sorry.
Debbie, is that the one we're going to talk to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so dreams appearing as a series often over years follow Joseph Campbell's archetypal structure and stages of the hero's journey: calling, death, rebirth, and transformation. And so this is what I said is the same pattern throughout history, throughout cultures. Dream series provide a map and guidance for the dreamer throughout their unique hero's journey. And so in my presentation, I have written a new mythic adventure, The Healing Power of Dreams, From Death to Rebirth as the Wounded Healer and Dream Shaman, illustrating our heroine's journey through the 12 stages of the hero's journey as synthesized by Christopher Vogler. So Joseph Campbell had 17 stages, and some of them are quite complex. And as you mentioned, Jeff, for the screen, and Christopher Vogler was a screenwriter, and so he condensed them and synthesized them into the 12 stages, which is what you see with George Lucas and everybody else, and what all screen students follow, or writers.
Great. All right. What's the next one?
So the first stage, as I mentioned, is the ordinary world. So that's where, the hero, you see, like in The Hobbit, where you're living in your normal village with your normal family, with your normal people, and everything seems wonderful. Okay, so then the next stage is when you have the call to adventure, and you may not recognize what the call is. So in my case, yes, I already mentioned the precognitive dream. That was, I did remember and I wrote down, but I didn't want to know that it was going to be a call to adventure. And so some inciting incident is what happens to set the hero on their quest or journey. So I wouldn't have thought I was questing at that stage, but that's that. Then the third stage, thanks, Jeff, is where you are refusing the call. As I spoke, I believed I could get well. I thought, that the fitness in my life and my balance and everything would, return me back to work. And so I was refusing the call for a year, even while my body was saying, no, I can't. So we all do that. We don't
stay in the ordinary world, in the Hobbit world.
Absolutely. Or we want to change a little bit, but not that bit, or I'll change this and I'm sure I can just make it better is really what we all try to do as humans because anything's hard. Change is hard.
So are you using the symbolism of the cat as the heroine because the cat has 9 lives? Is this what?
My son painted these as a generic version, so that he wasn't going to do he wasn't going to talk to his mother and listen to her suggestions. So yeah, it's a generic hero, and it works shamanically as an ally. So then on the journey, fairly early on, the heroine meets the mentor, and in my case, I had a dream of 3 women who were bringing me beautiful flowers and offering hope and healing. And that I actually found was the house I dreamt at that time. This was in my first year of illness, when I went to visit a healing homeopath, and it was exactly the same dream. So it was like, oh my goodness, something's happening. And also my mentors in my case were a good medical doctor to support me with what he thought was chronic fatigue syndrome, even though I didn't at this stage. So we have our mentors that guide us. And they're also, so with the women, my spiritual mentors coming to me through the dream. And these women that I hadn't met previously in my life have reoccurred and revisited me in my dreams. And so that has been something that I've learned to take notice of, that when they're present. Well, yes. I mean, look, our spirit guides come in many guises, and they like to travel in disguise. So that they'll appear for you in a form usually that you can relate to and that you can recognize. And they may be the same spirit guides that just change as your journey changes. So then the next stage is where you accept the call and you cross the threshold, so that this is where the ordeals and deaths start. You've actually gone into another world. And so for me, my world was permanent illness, that I was taking at least 2 years permanent sick leave with insurance. I still didn't know that I wasn't going to return to the normal world, but you cross a threshold. There's a point where you actually accept that something has changed and you need to start surrendering and letting go, even if you don't know what to.
So the picture for our listeners on radio is just sort of kind of green bushes and then a beautiful golden door, but with a blue, or a gateway, a portal with a sort of blue-white wash to it. And quick shout out to Helen. Thanks for joining us on the show. We've got Debbie talking to us about the hero's journey, and she's just crossed the threshold, which leads on to stage 6.
Yes, so
allies and enemies.
Yes, so yes, the portal is a beautiful a metaphor that you use, because we are going through a portal into another world, and we're losing touch with the world that we had. And even if we don't realize how deep and long and treacherous our initiations and death will be, we certainly come up against new tests and enemies. And so for me, that was primarily my body at that stage failing me in every way. And then the allies, of course, are the mentors that come in to support us, and both on inner and outer worlds. So I want to emphasize that the hero's journey is always an inner and an outer journey and adventure, and they need to supplement each other.
What's the image we've got here?
Oh, yeah. So this is climbing, hanging on. And so you can see that the hero, the cat in his cloak, is attached to a rope, and somebody's pulling him up through these crevices and rocks. And he has no idea where he's going, but it's very barren and away from anything familiar.
Well, I go back to the symbology. The one that's climbing up front looks like a monkey, and monkeys are always, in Chinese mythologies, quick intelligence, thinking, escape artists, very quick-minded, aren't they? So maybe it's a journey into the higher mind, and just saying.
Yes, and we'll get some, if we keep going, we'll get some other animal spirits that are painted. So now we're approaching, these beautiful golden doors. So this is the entry to the cave. And there is the light that's shining out, even though we know that the cave is dark. And, it's often referred to as the belly of the whale, like when Jonah's in the whale. And the monkey's sort of sitting there at the end, leaving, and the cat is looking at these doors. And it looks beautiful on the outside. But how do we know that we're actually going into darkness? We can look at the picture and see that there are grey clouds all around. And we're on a ledge very high up. We get the impression, I think. So we're entering the cave, the dark night of the soul. Then, and so in this time for me, my dreams were absent. So that was a really difficult period for me. Going on into the next stage, this is the ordeals and the death. So we're talking about death. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, for me, there were multiple deaths in every aspect of my life, my marriage, my health, my job. I was ill health retired. I couldn't read or write. I couldn't walk. I was sleeping 18 hours a day. And my dreams, had just deserted me. They died as well. However, I still kept to a spiritual sense. And the one thing, as I said, that sustained me was the creativity and the love with my sons and my capacity to go out and sit under the clothesline with my cat. There's the cat, Jeff. And just a simple thing, and this is what will build through my story, is this connection to nature, ultimately. So, okay, so then
golden owl flying over there, over the cat in the boat.
Yes, so we're getting the owl, the wise guide, the spirit guide. And so this period at the end of 2011, when everything was the worst it could be, I'd been divorced and I had to probably move out of the family home in a couple of months. And I didn't know where I would live. I had nobody to help me. So I had the typical abyss dream, which is, this is key in the hero's journey, that after all the ordeals and deaths, one's facing an abyss. And I was literally dreaming that I was at the huge mountain and I looked below and I was frozen and I couldn't move. And then I looked up again and suddenly there was like a slack bridge appearing from the other side, and my son appeared, the son who painted these pictures, and helped me walk across to the other side. And as I walked across under his help, two figures appeared in the dream, a male on my left and a female on my right. And they both came into my life a month later and remained throughout my life from this period on, through all my journey, to help me. The male friend has been a spiritual mentor and encouraged me that I could heal. And, he also supported my dreams. And then the female mentor, also spiritual, and helped me find an apartment to live in. So she was practical as well as spiritual. So at the beginning of 2012, I crossed the abyss literally to a new life. And the last stage of the hero's journey is the rebirth. Well, I'm not quite reborn, but I've gained the reward. So in classic movies, you receive a sword, or you receive an elixir, or you receive some power that is going to help the hero go on their journey. So mine was freedom and safety. I lived in my own apartment. I went back to university, and even though I couldn't read or write, that's when I began religious studies, and then my Master of Counselling and Suicidology. And so I'm still going to hospital every month. But this is the road back. And so from 2012 until, 2016, I had trials with academic tests. I was still struggling with my body. was still going to hospital and I was struggling to walk. But my dreams started appearing again, as they had at the end of the death stage. They started guiding me, and I was getting a lot of precognitive information every time to encourage me on the next choice in my life. And I just went step by step, as like this picture where you can see that it's a long, windy road and you don't know that you're going to make it to the end. But my dreams really helped me in this period. And so as I was completing my Masters of Counselling in 2016, and I'd been to India and Nepal to do counselling work, and I was riding on the Wounded Healer, the hospital noticed that my immunoglobulin levels were rising. And so they had to start reducing the amounts of plasma they were giving me, which wasn't supposed to happen at all. And so I was able to write in my research that by changing my environment, living in a safe place, enriching my learning and my spiritual life by engaging in lots of different spiritual workshops, working with my dreams, all of that, and working with other wounded people and becoming empathic. And I managed to change my biology. And so then at the end of 2016, I dreamt a shamanic dream where I was in another country looking at mountains and valleys, and an eagle appeared in my dream, and I suddenly flew with it, and I joined with the eagle, and I had this freedom and just the feeling of other vistas and lands. And so then I started this rebirth, where the final part of my journey developed through going to Peru for 2 months to do shamanic ceremonies, and with the local maestros in northern Peru on the Amazon, and do the healing ceremonies, the ayahuasca ceremonies. And then in America to do my dreamwork training with Robert Moss, and then my shamanic training with Hank Wesselman. So this became the final key to my healing, by really working at a deeper level with the sacred and with nature and with the beauty of places and the joy of working shamanically and with dreams. And I had 2 months in Canada at the end of that year, from 2017 to 2018, also doing shamanic and dream work every day, giving workshops. And so I was able to start practicing this as well as my counselling.
Debbie, I might jump in and just reflect back as I'm listening to you share that story. I can understand the common threads, or sort of what's been going on in the background. So when you were in the abyss and looking at the abyss, and different parts of you were dying, you know, your professional self, and then the bit that could read and write, it really sounded like it was a stripping away of different assumed personalities, the death of the ego, until you were pretty much nothing, except that what was core to you, so you working with your sons on the creative side. So, you know, the death, you know, of the ego and all assumed personalities. And then, you know, just the magic of your body responding to, you know, to the dreams and the spiritual course that you were putting yourself on, leading, it's just, you know, it's just wonderful to hear that the body does respond definitively. And that then as this doing the shamanic dreams and all the workshops that you then were, you know, learning to work with the universal forces and the other dimensions that we all have access to through different generations, whether we're in certain families or not. Every human has access to those dimensions, as Jeffrey knows, is a big proponent. And now presumably you're really good at it.
No, please, Julia, I keep saying, look, this has taken me 15 years and I feel like I'm only just starting again. And reminding, I mean, one thing from learning about shamanic practice is that it really reminds you that everything is a cycle. And you know, we just keep repeating the cycles. And a bit like the picture that was up, you know, before, that we're going around and round, and you saw the way my son painted that picture where the cat is actually, thanks Jeff, is actually losing his cloak. And so he's actually becoming naked as he's going through the final challenge and resurrection. And yes, I guess the nakedness is what you're talking about, Julia, in the death of the ego. I don't like to get into talking about ego. Look, you know, I've studied Buddhism and Hinduism, and in psychology, the ego is actually very important, because if we don't have a sense of our gifts and our essence and agency in the world, you know, we become mentally lost and unstable. So it's really about having to let go of the persona, the aspects of the way that we spend our lives learning to be skilled in different areas. And so I, you know, as a violinist and a conductor and a music teacher, I'd spent my whole life learning those skills. And yes, I lost them. But what has come out in the rebirth, which is where Jeff's got the slide up now of the cat back at the windowsill, and he's looking at a bowl of magic potion that's bubbling away, and that is called the elixir. So the hero discovers the Holy Grail, or the elixir, from their journey. And for me, as my dreams built and guided me, and I began to, in retrospect, always in retrospect, recognize, oh, that was a precognitive dream. You know, like when I was doing the shamanism and traveling overseas and studying online, I didn't know what I was doing. I was always complaining, like, oh, I finished my Masters of Counselling and I don't know what I'm going to do, because, you know, I was still very compromised in my energy. And it was like, oh, what's going to happen to me? And, you know, I was full of self-pity. And yet I was traveling to Peru and America and having these wonderful experiences. And so I still wouldn't call myself a shaman. I'm a practitioner of shamanic work. And so what happened was that I started using the drum. And that was reconnecting with my musical gifts and combining it with energy work, my intuition that had been part of my whole life. And as a conductor of an orchestra, suddenly I'm conducting a group of meditators, and I'm drumming and I'm using their energy and picking up the energy of everybody and working with it as if I'm conducting an orchestra, so that I'm respecting each person individually, but I'm also combining everybody into a greater whole, and I'm providing a vehicle through the sound and the rhythm for them to contact their higher self, their guides, their spiritual worlds. So,
and to come into coherence by the look of it. I mean, I love this picture that your son has done, because it's a golden brass bowl, and the water in it is being resonated by sound, and it's forming like a droplet bridge, which is actually, they do have bowls like that in China in the temples, where when you rub them, they actually create these little sprinkle fountains just from the sound.
Oh, wow.
Describing that's what you're doing.
Well, I'm
just
using
shout out to Maria Teresa de Vivo, who said it's not a circle, it's a spiral. I think to Jeff's comment, or to your comment, that we keep on going round and round.
Yes. Well, look, you know, we like to think we're going up the mountain, don't we, when we're circumambulating it. But, you know, even if we come round and we come to the same spot, we look at it with a different perspective. That's the ideal. Some of us go up the mountain faster than others. Some of us, yeah, we won't debate that. Okay, so the elixir in the slide that you just described, Julia, was where I said that for me, it was understanding that the power of dreams for us to heal myself through my story, and for other people to tap into energy, empowerment, re-empowerment. Shamanism is about re-empowering a person. and guidance, always guidance. And so by changing the aspects of our life, and I use from counseling the Biopsychosocial-Spiritual model of healing, but by changing each of those aspects in our lives, we can change our biology, and dreams are a portal for accessing this guidance and this energy and re-empowerment. So that's what I use in my counseling work and my shamanic work. And just in conversation.
I love that, because it's, sorry, Debbie, also it's basically combining the world of mythos and logos, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. We have to. And we have to know that mythos is an energy, and it's a creative force. It's a living creative force. And, you know, Robert Moss, my dream teacher, his favorite story is, our statement is, your big story is hunting you. So we think that we need to find our stories, but he says, no, your story is hunting you. And so your role as a dreamer, as a spiritual sacred person, is to connect with, what is it that you are born into this world to bring out in this world? What new mythos can you give to the world?
And that's this beautiful verse that you wrote to conclude. Yes, Maria's saying, I love Debbie's story, so do I. Thanks for joining us. So with your elixir, you have this beautiful verse to conclude. Do you want to read it, Debbie, or do you want me to read it?
No. I can read that. Thanks, Julia. So, Jeff, it is on a slide. I can read it first, I guess. So each of us must write and live our own personal myth, our own holy grail of lived experience, creating a new mythos for our time. Our dreams already bring us clues and provide a map for us. If we know how to serve our dreams will serve us, and we each will become the hero in our unique hero's journey of life.
There you go. That's the map. That's the guide. That's the empowerment. That's the healing, all in one.
Yes. Yeah. So patience and practice, journal. And, you know, gratitude. My shamanic teacher, Hank Wesselman, who unfortunately left us in February this year, you know, he was also always quoting his mentor, Hale Makua, a Hawaiian kahuna, that, you know, respect and reverence, humility and self-discipline. And those are, you know, those are the kapu, the sacred practices that all of us can bring to the world with gratitude and aloha.
As I say, mahalo.
What was that, Jeff?
Oh, mahalo. It's the Hawaiian. Greetings.
Greetings. That's it. And Debbie, just out of interest, you know, you had your big heroine's journey when you were like 40 plus, but when you were growing up, did you have any inkling or connection to your dreams? I know certainly when I started going into meditation and spiritual, we said, you've got to remember your dreams. And at that time, I didn't dream at all, or I didn't remember any dreams. And then somebody said, oh, remember what you were like when you were 9, what you really wanted to do. And I couldn't remember any of that either. What were you like?
Yes, well, look, my first dream that I can remember was flying. And it was flying over a farm that we lived on, and it was beautiful. And then through high school, I started dreaming my exam marks, and good or bad, memorably, my university scholarship exam mark, exactly 245, which was 5 marks below a pass. So that was memorable. But, and so, yes, I've always had specific dreams, but you know, this story is where my dreams expanded to be out of body, to be lucid dreaming, and to understand that dreaming is both asleep and awake. And my shamanic journey is dreaming. And so we must expand that understanding of what a dream is and work with it. But the key thing for me, I think at 13 was that I had a mystical experience, what I call, which was profound. And I was sitting outside in the daytime, just, in the backyard. And suddenly I had this vision of all these like crystal prisms and pyramids of light rotating and moving, and they were refracting all the colors of the rainbow. And then I was told, in an auditory explanation, that you are just like these prisms. You are light that rotates through time and space. And so then, my understanding now where I am in my life is, okay, I had that experience. I carried it with me. And I was also told that religions around the world were all created for different cultures and different people to suit their time and place. It was a guiding thing, but I understood that they're all stories basically to serve that sort of purpose. So this mystical experience gave me the understanding and the knowing that there was something much bigger. And even though I did religious studies and I watched my brother was very religious and still is through his life, I always knew that there was something bigger and a consciousness, and my connection with nature, because my father was a botanist and we spent time in nature. I hated it that time. And so, but it's part of my body. And as I said, when I was sick, it was what kept me alive. I got my spiritual sustenance through nature. And so the shamanic path has also connected me to that energy in a really deep way and given me a structure for practice that, invoking the directions, invoking the power animals, invoking the trees, the consciousness of the trees and the elements that I've learnt through alchemical healing. It gives resources for my clients and for me to tap into the transpersonal. And, they're not just archetypes. These are real spirits that we're connecting with. They're real energy, and it grounds us and it makes our incarnation in a body meaningful, because otherwise, we're separating from what the true gift of being a human being is.
It's true. Part of it is actually appreciating nature. And I know, Jeff, you go out a lot in nature. You go on your tiki tours and make pictures of them, and it's very fulfilling for you because, like most of us, we all have an office job, but we got to get out there. Got to get out in nature and connect and be kissed by sunshine and smell the salt and everything. Where have you been recently, Jeff?
Last night, went to Mount Archer. I've been there 2 weeks ago and met up with all these healers there. And there was one particular healer who I met 7 years ago who came with a Tesla mat. I've never seen a Tesla mat, but it was really quite profound. So it works for 8 minutes. And anyway, she told me that what I really needed for an inflammation on my knee was soda crystals. And I thought, okay. So it took me a while to find soda crystals. And anyway, I had to go and buy a pair of ladies' pantyhose stockings. So that was another experience for me. You like that?
What did the chemist say? I'd like to have these, please. Are you trying to be Mel Gibson here?
Yeah, what the woman really want. Yeah, read their minds.
Did you get the very tall or short ones?
No,
the ones with balls or fishnet?
I got the short ones here. Give me visualizations here. Anyway, so so throw these soda crystals into the pantyhose thing, and then you tie them off. You put them around the kneecap, and then tie it off with a tea towel. Well, I did that for 4 nights, and I have to say, overnight and the next morning, the crystals all went to white powder over the inflammation, and it just went rock solid. The stocking and the tea towel. But I have to say, after 4 nights, it pulled out the inflammation, and so and I just use an Arnica now, and in the last 3 days, it's been fantastic, awesome. I mean, after seeing the traditional doctors for X-ray and ultrasound and MRI, this woman just came out of the woodwork. So and mentioned this is what you got to do. Yeah, so there's a lot of things there that if you're ready and ask for help and assistance and guidance and direction, somewhere along the line, as long as you're open, like a clean canvas, you get that reception. So that was 2 weeks ago, and as we were going on this special journey around to Stony Creek, never been there as locals, awesome. We went past this pyramid house. So I had to go back there last night because they said, look, let's go up to Mount Archer to the airstrip. And we went up there last night and we met all these different healers and actually met the owner who after 30 years, like build it and they will come. And this is exactly what this guy did. So it was really great just having a chat with Ron. And then the sun came down and it was a beautiful sunset. So when you take those photos and you put them up on Facebook for people to witness, it's really to open people up to dream the new dream, in the sense that, turn off the TV, turn off the current affairs shows, don't listen to all the mainstream narrative, get out and enjoy life and plug into it. And there's a lot of healing takes place by doing that, and you meet other like-minded people. It's in that sharing, and the energy exchange is a powerful antidote, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the way to go. Debbie, do you facilitate regular meditation groups or healing groups? If people are listening and watching this now or later, how can they interact with you?
Yes, I gave my contact to Jeff. Well, I work privately as a counsellor at home and doing journey work through drumming and supporting the client to experience their own connections to their higher self and, different experiences and dream work. So I have also been doing some workshops, but they have been organised by other people at this stage. But I'm happy to have conversations with people. I love sharing about dream work, or if people have questions and shamanic work. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of people. I often get asked about people's dreams, or parents will tell me about their kids' dreams, and I think there's definitely a niche there for someone could hope. It's not Joseph in the Technicolor Dream; it's Debbie Irvine in the cat cloak, the triangles, and the pyramids, and the crystals.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Robert Moss, who I had trained with in America, who's an Australian, has done a lot of courses on the Shift Network that you can access, and Hank Wesselman and the other shamanic teachers that I all trained with through the Shift Network. That's a great resource for people. But Robert has condensed or synthesized, the Jungian approach, which can be quite expensive and difficult if you want to find a Jungian dream analyst, into a very simple lightning dream process that is accessible for anybody to work with. And I'm happy to share that. And I also really recommend his books. He's a fantastic writer. He was an academic lecturer and a novelist, and has an encyclopedic brain and written so many different techniques and journeys, to your parallel self, your future self, your past self, ancestors, everything that you can imagine. So that's
we love that kind of stuff, because we all got to be the avatars, combining everything into a triangle. What's the canvas? Talking of canvases and triangles, what's the painting on behind you?
Thank you.
So beautiful purples and blues and whites.
Yes, they're gold. So yes, this was just painted by a friend of mine, Cyan Brooks, and have been doing workshops with her. She's a medium and a painter, and I asked for her to put together some symbols. It's got 6-pointed stars. It's got different stars in it, and the colours for me were the blue and the magenta, and then she added in the gold and the 3 spheres. The corner of each triangle to form circuits of energy, and there are many, many portals in the painting, in the layers you can't see, but underneath is a very geometric, almost Klee type painting. And so she paints intuitively. She's guided by her connections, and so I'm very happy that I can use it to add to my portals. We all need portals. And
yeah, when I look at it, it looks like you have the violet flame of transformational transmutation there for you as well.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, to all the listeners, I want to say that finding our own portals, finding our own symbolic language, connecting to synchronicities, deja vu, messages from the spirits, our guides, is a wonderful and beautiful, enriching life path. And, you know, it's a practice. It's learning a language, and it's certainly, you know, re-enlivened me and made my personal life anew, and a beautiful way of reconnecting with the world again, because I really didn't think that this could happen.
There you go. Beautiful. You've been listening to Debbie Irvine, who beat 99% of the odds and is well alive, thriving.
And no hospital treatment. No more hospital treatment. I didn't actually say that, but yeah, my treatment was stopped permanently in 2018 because I had started manufacturing my own antibodies, which isn't supposed to happen, and enough to survive without hospital treatment.
There you go. Journey of empowerment. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing that. And if you're listening and you do have an illness that you're fighting with or battling, really recommend you get in touch with Debbie. She's based in Brisbane, but you can talk to her online as well. And never give up hope. Just know that there's a reason you're going through whatever it is, and you just got to figure out what it is. And trust. Follow those little clues, intuition in your dreams, so you can dream that new dream.
Thank you. And each of our lives is important and meaningful to the world.
That's true. Jeff, any closing comments?
I just like Hercules. Oh, that was a great story. But,
Hercules is a great story. Absolutely adore it, Jeff. Wouldn't know what I would do without Hercules to make me keep on going. Much more inspiring than Robert Scott. Next week we have 2 gentlemen and 1 woman. 2 very strong gentlemen. The 3 are all Reiki practitioners and healers, including Maria Teresa de Vivo, who's joining us, Colombia. So we will be talking all things Reiki next week. And next week may well be our last show for a bit before we go on a bit of a break. So please do join us. If you've enjoyed tonight's show, please share it. Sharing is caring with other people so that everyone can, have a join in the power of our dreams, and hopefully it'll be a better world for all of us. Thank you very much for listening and joining us. Excellent, Debbie.